Following up on the Caitlin Clark, let's call it stupidity. As John Krause noted earlier, folks had time to talk about it because there wasn't a lot else going on in sports. There was plenty of distraction brought by the biggest superstar in women's basketball right now. Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show went on a hell of a tirade this morning, and boy, did it just stoke some fires.
What the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow, superstar. And we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple-year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire points records in the history of the NCAA? Not just the women's record by Kelsey Plum, shout out, but also Pistol Pete Maravich's, the dude's record as well. Is there a chance that people just enjoy watching her play basketball because how electrifying she is, what she did, what she stood for, how she went about going, what she went for? Maybe. But instead, we have to hear people say that we only like her because she's white. And she's the only popular because the rest of the rookie class is doing what they're doing. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. And we think the WNBA, more specifically, their refs need to stop trying to screw her over at every single turn. What you have is somebody special. And we're lucky she's here in Indiana.
All right, two things. The overall theme of what McAfee said, I agree with. Two takeaways, though, that where I'm like, calling her the white bee, which he has since walked back. This is from Pat McAfee's Twitter. I shouldn't have used white bee as a descriptor of Caitlin Clark, no matter the context, even if we're talking about race being a reason for some of the stuff happening. I have way too much respect for her and women to put her into that universe. My intentions when saying it were complimentary, just like the entire segment, but a lot of folks are saying that it certainly didn't come across that as all. That's 100% on me, and for that I apologize. I have sent an apology to Caitlin as well. Everything else I said, still all facts.
Well, hang on. First off, I think he apologized for the wrong part of his commentary, and apologizing for specifically stating white. I think it was the use of the B word that everybody is all upset and in a tizzy about, and rightfully so. And he still doesn't effing get it.
I think he's apologizing for using the B.
Sure doesn't sound like it.
I think it sounds like a lot to me because the segment was very much about her being the white part of this, and there is truth to it.
There 100% is.
Ignoring that is very dumb. For both sides of this.
Look, I don't. Caitlin Clark, her legacy, her standing as a player in the WNBA, it is going to sort itself out on its own.
Yes.
You know what I would love to thank Caitlin Clark for? Is that we've got an apology from Pat McAfee, which doesn't happen very often.
No.
Right? So we got that going for us. Stephen A. Smith was put in a blender and did not know.
Monica McNutt just tied him in knots.
Did not know how to respond when he's like, "Who talks about the WNBA more than me?" And she was like, "Well, I don't know, Stephen. You could have been talking about him 3 years ago, and you didn't." And he was just like, "Ugh. How do you do that?" What we are seeing right now is what she's bringing to the table is one. The gatekeepers of the WNBA are having to open those gates up,
and they don't.
And everybody is here. But it's also there is a reframing, and there is actually an accountability for the talking heads who say stupid stuff all the time that never get checked for it, because in men's sports, stupid stuff is said all the time about
Welcome to the big time.
And now, though, it's actually like there's a forced awareness, which it's crazy that you have to have forced awareness, but there's starting to become this forced awareness that you can't just go off and say your unhinged things. There's going to be a little bit of repercussions for it. Maybe that is the longest standing change that Caitlin Clark brings to any of these conversations.
No, it's the thing about this where I've seen, from people who around the league, who cover the league, and people in the league, that there's this level of white privilege. It's not white privilege when you set the NCAA scoring record, when you take an Iowa team to back-to-back national titles.
Yeah.
That's called greatness. White, black, brown, it doesn't matter. That's greatness, folks. Why is she getting all of this? This is not fake. They're not latching onto her because she's white. They're latching onto her because she's great and white.
Yeah, there we go.
Like, if you're saying that it's not a part of it, you're dumb.
Yeah.
Because it is. But if you're saying it is the thing, you're also dumb. Because this is a woman who redefined women's college basketball. There's no other way. And we saw this from the woman who was second all time, who got up in arms because Caitlin Clark didn't actually break her record, because when she did it, there was no three-point line.
Yeah.
You remember that? They were already trying to discredit her then. That's the thing about this that is so very dumb.
But it's like there's also this element too that I roll my eyes at when we're talking about it, that it doesn't matter who the greatness is. Like, they're going to try to knock you down a peg.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they did it with Brady. No, Montana was perfect in Super Bowls. And then all of a sudden, Brady got to a point.
Skip made a career out of it.
That you got to a point where you couldn't knock Brady anymore. You're like, oh, crap. Guess what they're doing now? Mahomes. But it's like, Mahomes never going to get to Brady. Is that
is it somehow a failure?
Like, what are we doing? We're have an inability to appreciate greatness because we just want to compare it to the greats of yesteryear.
Always.
And that is where I don't care what Caitlin Clark's race is. No matter what her race was, she was going to be criticized and she was going to be knocked, because we have this infatuation with just knocking people down a peg, and there's no way that they could be the greatest. There's no way that Caitlin Clark could be the greatest scorer of all time, because guess what? Somebody else did it before they were actually keeping track of the records of scoring in women's basketball. Who gives a rip?
Yeah.
She is greatness.
Yes.
No matter what. And what she's doing right now for the WNBA is making us speak to the WNBA as we do the NBA. And that was a text that we got on the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. It said, you know what, this conversation's interesting. It doesn't matter if it's the WNBA. When you talk about it like it's the NBA or any other sport, it's an interesting conversation, and she has opened that door. There's no but it's women's sports.
Yeah.
But it's the WNBA. No, because what we are seeing right now is a growth of a game that is now to the point where I don't care if you want to drag your knuckles all the way across the ground, across the room. The WNBA is not going anywhere. It has become self-sustainable. Now it's going to become profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why you don't like the WNBA. If you don't like the style of basketball, cool.
That's
not
fine.
for you.
It's like the person that likes college basketball more than the NBA. Whatever. It's entirely fine.
But the popularity of the game has gotten to a point, and the interest of the game, and the interest of the game may not be for the individual that's listening right now to us, right? But the interesting topics that come out of it, they have gotten to a point where you don't avoid it, you talk about it.
Yes.
And will it go away? This iteration of it will, but something new will come along, and that is growth of that league to a point where you can't ignore it anymore.
No, you've got, Juju down at USC, who is the next one up, who's looked at as being the next legitimate, absolutely insane superstar. And hell, if things go right and she stays in school and Portland gets a WNBA team, which, by the way, folks, that's happening. Like, that's going, like, Toronto got their team, the Bay Area is getting their team, Portland's getting a team. Like, that's happening behind the scenes. You're going to hear official announcements on that here in the coming months. Like,
so you can go and boo Caitlin Clark yourself,
and you might have
don't like the WNBA.
Not only that, you
much.
might have a superstar in a Juju Watkins coming up here in Portland and being the number 1 pick in that draft.
Sure, that'd be great.
Like that's the kind of thing. Like the growth of this game is happening whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
And how it's growing, the fact that so many of the gatekeepers and the fans are trying to discount both how great she is and the pushback against her because it's not the way that they wanted it or how they wanted it is one of the more infuriating things.
It is true. It
doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's counter to the growth of the league.
It truly is. You're trying to say, no, we liked it better when it was niche.
Yes.
And that's going to be a problem that, look,
you can't have the money and that.
And any budding league or budding sport goes through this.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the WNBA gatekeepers are, if you close those gates off too much, you're going to start turning people away.
You're starting to see some of it. It's not rampant yet, but you're seeing people just throw up their hands like, I'm out.
I'm out.